This is take two. Hey y'all, welcome to my kitchen full of stuff. Yes, it is another one of those days. And you know, I try to do the live thing, but there's something going on online. I don't know what the deal is. But you know what? It doesn't stop me. Doesn't stop me from doing what I love to do, and that's cooking barefoot in the kitchen. Country style, of course. It is basically, not officially, but fall. And I love fall. That's my baking season, people. And that's where I'm at. I am Betty Crocker incarnate. One of my favorite fall time items to cook, actually bake, is apple crumb pie. Country apple crumb pie. Some people call it deep dish apple crumb pie. Some just call it apple crumb pie. Some just call it apple pie with crumb topping. And I used to make it the old way, you know, with the whole wheat flour thing, but I never used bleach flour. Who wants to eat bleach? So I would use the unbleached flour. The thing, if you do use unbleached flour, if you're not going gluten-free and you use flour, but you want to be a little healthier, do the unbleached, but do know one thing, unbleached flour does spoil faster. So you have to keep an eye on it if you make bread or you make any kind of cake or banana cake or whatever, because it will mold faster. When I was growing up in the country, like I said, we didn't waste a lot of anything. If we could figure out a way to cook it, eat it, dry it, whatever, we did. And that's one of the things that's great about apple pie. You get 2 for 1 on it. With an apple pie, of course, you get a bunch of apples, right? The only apple that I ever make my apple pie with is a Granny Smith. They're tart, so when you add the sugar, you still get a sweet tart taste. It's the best, especially when you put the apple crumbs or the crumb topping on top. You need for a 9-inch pie, apple crumb country style pie, you need 6 to 8 of these. I did 6 this size. 8 will be more the medium size. These are honking looking apples, so I peeled 6. Now, if you're not aware and have not ever made anything that turns when you are preparing it to cook it with, lemon juice. You can use lime juice, any kind of citric juice. You can even use orange juice, for Pete's sake. The citric acid keeps the color in your apples. Now, you're not going to believe this, but I put I put lemon juice on these apple slices over, let me think, 4 hours ago, and they still look like they did when I peeled them. Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? So, because who wants to eat a brown apple pie? I mean, yeah, the cinnamon turns it dark, but you know, it's a thing. So when you are preparing your apples, I had an apple corer. It was one of those really nice, you know, heavy plastic around the edge, and I think it's still here. You want to see what happened to it? I guess I don't know my own strength, because I got one apple cored with it, went to do the second one, and it sort of broke. So I told my husband it's an ingenious design, but they need to make them so they don't break. So he ordered me a new one. That's sweet of him. So first you want to pick out your 6 to 8 apples. If you do 8, don't worry about it being too much, because I mean, this is the pie pan, right? It's not very high. The apples cook down. That's why you need so many to make one pie. So I cut them, I core them, and then I peel the skin off. And then I take the skin. Normally I would give it to the deer to eat outside. And I decided to stop feeding the deer because they ate my garden up the last couple years. My vegetable garden. Yeah, had deer problem. Plant rosemary. You plant rosemary around your garden, they won't come near it. They can't smell the good stuff. So, I'll say rosemary's good stuff. So you take the skins from the apples, and the apple peels, and you can see I've got a bowl full of them. Now what you're going to do with those is you take some butter and you melt it, maybe about a 1/4 cup, and then you stir that around on your apple peels. Okay, now what do you do with it? Well, what you're going to end up with is apple chips. Oh, so good. Now, the other thing we do in the country, excuse me for eating in front of you, but these are delicious. We don't measure a lot of stuff. We just kind of like throw it together. But since y'all are watching, I got to give you measurements. So, you cook the apple chips. I'm going to stick this right on top of this bowl. On your cookie tray. Parchment paper. Because as the sugar and the cinnamon are melting together, it creates a sticky syrup, and you don't want to have to clean up a lot of stuff. So, this keeps your pan nice and clean. So you take your apple chips. You take your quarter cup. You don't even need a quarter cup, probably about 3 tablespoons of melted butter. It's what it's for. The butter is for is to get the sugar and the cinnamon to stick to it. So you're going to take about, I did, it's always good to have some kind of a container or an old spice jar that has in it cinnamon and sugar already mixed together. Makes for a good mixture. Now, if you have that many apples, it's like, I guess, probably about a cup and a half worth. Take half a cup of sugar. Put in a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you like them really cinnamony, put 2 teaspoons in there. I also add usually either pumpkin spice or allspice. And the only sugar I've been using, and because I'm trying to do the natural stuff as much as possible, especially my age, I want to live long. Pure cane sugar. Not processed sugar, pure cane sugar. For those of you who love our bird friends, we have hummingbird feeders. This is kind of like a sideways talk here. Don't ever give them, of everything I've read, don't ever give them all natural or pure sugar. Don't give them pure cane sugar. You got to give them the processed sugar. It's 1 cup of sugar to 3 cups of water. So it's like 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. That's the lemon juice. Use real lemon juice. There are lemon kind of watered down things. Use a real lemon. The funny thing is it keeps it from turning brown, but you don't taste it when you bake with it. I know I don't, because the apple's already tart, right? So, as far as the apple chips goes, after you pour the melted butter on them, and you take your cinnamon and sugar mixture. If you want to add nutmeg, add nutmeg. Add allspice. I add allspice to this. So if you do 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, then just do about 1/4 of a teaspoon of whatever other spice you want to add to it, so it doesn't overpower the cinnamon, so you can taste them both. Nutmeg and allspice are pretty potent. The pumpkin pie spice tastes really good on these. So you just take that, after you put the butter on there and you stirred them up and got them good and coated, you're going to put this on them. Okay? And stir that up. Get them good and sugary coated. But since it's cane sugar, it's alright because it's not processed sugar. So kids will love these. Now when you're peeling your apples, just remember, peel some of the meat off, like peel them a little thicker, so that you have some of the meat of the apple on it. Now I lay mine down with the skin side up because I don't want the meat to burn. These cook up really fast. Now there are other ways to cook them. This is a baking method. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and you gotta watch them. So I always put a timer on since I'm doing more than one thing at a time. As soon as when they're done, you'll see that the edges get like a crispy brown color. Now, when they're done like that, you're turning your oven off at that point, and you're going to sprinkle a little bit more of the cinnamon sugar topping on them, just to give them a little extra coating, so that kids like things sweet, and cinnamon and sugar, no big deal. These are a lifesaver when you're making a meal and it's taking some time, like you have to cut things up or you have to do a lot of preparation. And the kids are going, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And you're like, here, have an apple chip. Here, have a bunch. So make these up. If you have a dehydrator, that's wonderful. You can use that as well. Gives a little different texture. I like this way because it makes them a little crispier. That's just my opinion. It's kind of like the difference between microwaving a meal and actually cooking it in the oven. Baked potatoes, perfect example as that goes. And that's another thing. This is not something you only have to do with apple skins. You can do it with potato skins. You know how you buy those expensive potato skins in the store? Well, if you're having baked potatoes one night, or you never know, you're making mashed potatoes. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You're making mashed potatoes. You're peeling the skin off, correct? Okay. Keep the skins. Do this with the skins, but don't use cinnamon and sugar. Use something different. I would suggest just some sea salt, so they're actually like potato chips, or you can do the whole flavoring thing. You know how the potato chips have all these different flavors. We particularly like the horseradish steak ones or whatever. You can put steak seasoning on them. Oh, what do they call that stuff? All I know is on the jar it says steak seasoning. Well, anyway, some flavor that you like with potatoes. You could do a cheese thing if you wanted to, and then you just do the same thing until they get crispy. Now at 400, potatoes might take a little longer. This, no more than 12 minutes. No more than 12 minutes. So I'm gonna pop these in. I set my timer, and hopefully they won't burn. I'm gonna keep an eye on them. But go right in there. Not on the very bottom rack though. The next one up is fine. And I gotta get rid of this. Alright. Alright. Now, there is some debate, always has been, about pie crust. What's the debate? Should you always sift it or not? Doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter to me. There's the allspice. What matters is what you're rolling it out on and what kind of flour you're using. That's more important. So, I have a variety of gluten-free flours. They're all wonderful. If you want a little moisture, kind of sweet taste in what you're making, like I did with banana cake one night, add coconut flour. Coconut flour is wonderful. And you can taste the coconut, even in the banana bread. I could taste the coconut. It was just a hint. It's a wonderful taste. And I've never done my pie crust gluten-free before. So, this is a little nervous for me. I always made it the old school way, but I'm going to show you a couple tricks of how to measure certain things for my own recipe. I came up with it. I tweaked an old recipe of how to make the pie crust, and I've never regretted it because it always comes out great every time. Watch it come out wrong this time. Be my luck, right? Okay, coconut flour. There is also one that's equivalent to what you're used to, your regular white flour. It's a 1-to-1 baking flour. You wouldn't really know the difference, honestly. Now this one it's a selfish reason I haven't opened this one yet. It's a brown rice flour. On the back of that bag there is a brownie recipe that I'm just dying to make. And I'm going to do it. One of these videos you're going to see the brownies. I understand they love brownies in the South. Boy, do they. So I'm going to put these over here out of the way. And now, why do people sift flour? Why did they? Why do they? Why don't they? Because it takes out any lumping that might be there to keep it from rising properly for you. That's one reason. The other is just because people always have done it that way. You know, and it could be that the flours of back in the day, I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, that were kind of coarse. So when they were grinding up the flour, they didn't do such a great job, and that was the result. necessities you need to do a pie crust are, you don't need to have this sifter. It's just fun to do. I'll show you how it works. It's really cool. I got this in Goodwill just for the nostalgia of it. I actually use it. Silicone roller. Gotta have one. Rolling pin. Wooden ones are great. Silicone is better. If you have a marble top, awesome, because marble stays cold and your pastry doesn't get warm, because when your pastry gets warm or your pie crust gets warm, it starts to stick to things. It will not stick to silicone, typically. I still coat it with flour, just because I always have. Old habits die hard, what can I tell you? And this is what's called a pastry blender. It basically what this little thing does, and I forgot my timer. You guys are supposed to tell me to put a timer on. I'll put on 9 minutes now, just to be sure. I mean, that's a lot of. Oh, that smells so good. Pastry blender, it doesn't blend, it kind of separates. I was taught in home economics in school, middle school, many moons ago, to use 2 butter knives to make your pie crust. Well, the premise is you have flour, you have shortening, and you use the 2 knives to do like this, so it gets pea-sized little lumps. Yeah, well, you don't have to do that if you have one of these. You basically, because of the spacing between the wires, you're doing like this, and it's making those lumps for you. Yeah. So, that's what we used to use. I discovered a wonderful silicone mat, pad, whatever you want to call it. It has on it the measurements for anything you're going to do circular, for a tart, a torte, a pie, or whatever the case may be, tortillas. And it has it measured out for you. It goes from a 5-inch circle to a 12-inch circle. So when you have a 9-inch pie pan, you have to consider how deep it is. And your average 9-inch pie pan is going to be 1.5 inches deep. 1.5 inches, 9, 10, yeah, 12 inch would work. Well, we used to do it like this. That's how they taught us in school. You take your pie pan, you stick it upside down. Say that I've already got my pastry rolled out, and if that pastry doesn't come out past that ledge with the pan upside down, it's not going to fit. It'll be too small. And you have to make sure you got enough all the way around. Figure that one. Pretty neat trick, I guess. So this is how you use a sifter, in case y'all want to play and use one. I'm just doing it to see if it makes any difference, because I am doing this gluten-free. Inside the bottom of it is a mesh, metal mesh. You can see it. There's a metal mesh thing in there. And then you got the little crank handle, and you just go to town. Da 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 da. Da da da. Whoops, get some out of the top. So actually, since I'm using 2 different kinds of gluten-free flour, this is actually very good for it, because now they're meshing together. They're learning to love one another. Love one another. Make a lovely pie crust. And it just takes a while, because that mesh wire in there is very fine, and you always hit the side. I don't know why. I used to see my great-grandmother do it. I think it was just to get everything to go down. But she had, well, Mom had a little one of these. This is a big one. This holds about, I think it even tells you on there how many cups it holds. It's like 4 cups. My mom had a 1-cupper. Well, 4 cups is like, when you're doing a lot of baking, gotta have a big one. Grandmother did a lot of baking. She did a lot of canning, she did a lot of everything. But she had her own garden too. Yeah, I think that's one of those, one of those things that's passed down through the generations, and sometimes it skips one. Didn't skip me. I've got all these siblings, and none of them grow a garden. I'm the only one. I'm so special. I'm going to show you. Okay. I'm sifting this, right? I'm turning this crank, and at the end, I have big lumps. The rest of it is like powder fine. And it smells so good. But I don't know if you can see. There's like 3 big lumpy things in there, in the bottom. Can you see them? There they are. So in the process of doing this, those surfaced. Now I didn't see those when I first poured flour in here. So now what it's doing is it's trying to break those up. And then you can also always go like this to get the, because when it gets down to the bottom, it just doesn't want to pour. And now I have little tiny lumps left that I can either go ahead and throw them in there, or I can dump them out. I think this time I'm going to dump them out since it's the first time I use my sifter. Yeah. Okay. You lumps, you got to go in the garbage. But I'm going to sit you to the side. I'm going to sit you over to the side. Only bad thing about baking is you make a mess and then you have to clean it up. Yeah, darn it. But anyway, so for the pie crust, say there, apples. What you need is 2 cups. 2 cups of flour or gluten-free flour. You can mix the 2 different kinds together. Doesn't make a difference. And then you need 2/3 of a cup. 2/3. 2/3 of a cup of shortening. Now I've tried multiple different brands. Try to give the underdog a chance. No, I'm sorry. There's nobody that makes shortening like they do. Good old Crisco. I can't. I tried to save a few pennies, and boy, did that pie crust. Bleh. There, you get what you pay for. It's not that much more. It really isn't. But ew. Did not like those other ones. Now you're thinking, okay, 2/3 of a cup. How do you measure it? 2/3 of a cup. Ah, there's the trick. Good old home economics in middle school. You take your measuring cup, right? You need 2/3. Okay. So you double that. Here comes the geometry. And that's 4/3. Well, 4/3 is what? 1 1/3. So you need 1 1/3 for it to come up to. And you're like, what are you talking about? You put 2/3 of a cup of water in your measuring cup. I lost my big one. Where'd the big measuring cup go? I thought this was it. Oh, there it is. Got it right in front of me. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. This is a 1 cup. You should have 1 of each or have a 5-cupper. Because I do a lot of different ingredients, I always have the 2. And then I have the little plastic ones. So I'm going to put 2/3 of a cup of water in here. And I'm going to show you how to get to 2/3 of a cup of shortening. Yes, you could take the little cup, little plastic ones like these guys, right? The little plastic measuring cup. Yeah, you can put that shortening in there, but you got to pack it. You got to smooth it over. Then you got to dig it out. You don't have to dig it out without what I'm going to do. Take your measuring cup. You go over here and you put in 2/3 of a cup of water. Okay. Let's see. I think that's about right. Let me see. 2/3. Stop wiggling, water. Hold still. Yeah. So we have 2/3 of a cup of water. Okay. I didn't bring a spoon with me. But that was silly. So take spoonful by spoonful. You're gonna put it in the water. And you're like, where's she going with this one? That's the thing. It's displacement. You're going to displace the water, so once you have 2/3 of a cup of shortening in here, the water level is going to be at where? 2/3 plus 2/3. 1 1/3. There you go. I knew you'd get it. So you're going to do this. And the great thing is, because it's a type of oil, the water doesn't really stick to it. You don't. So you're not going to be putting water in your dough just yet. So we need to get to 1 1/3, and we're almost there. Almost there. You got to watch your shortening too, people, because it does go bad, believe it or not. And I think my apple chips just yelled at me. I think I just heard them. Oh yeah. Yeah, any longer and these things would have been garnished. I'm glad I set the timer when I did. Okay. Now while they're hot, okay, I'm going to turn this off and then make sure that it says 350. Because that's what I need for the pie crust. I know that, you silly thing. Now that those are done, while they're still hot, you want to take, like I was saying, you take a little bit more of the cinnamon sugar and sprinkle it on the skin part. That's why I put the skin part side up also, because I already have cinnamon and sugar and butter on the other side. This is just because the skin needs to be sugared. And so you just, it's about tablespoons worth is what I just put in. I know that, honey. I know, I just pushed that. You ever just want to fuss back at the machinery? Okay, so I'm almost at 1 1/3. I think one more scoop will do it. I try to just, when you get close to the end, you just kind of do it a little bit at a time. And what you're doing is you're piling it in the center. You're not jamming it in there to make it 1 1/3. Oh, a little tiny bit more. But you're displacing the water to fill up 1 1/3 worth of space. And there we go. Now, I don't know if you can see, but I put in 2/3 of water, and I put in my shortening, and it comes up to 1 1/3, which is going to be the 4/3. I don't know if you can see it, but that is at 1 1/3. Now, you got to get rid of the water. You just have to. So I'm going to put this shortening out of the way. And I don't need that spoon. I don't need a spoon anymore. Pot holders are here. And once those cool off, they'll crisp up. You just hold your hand over the top, pour the water off. What you have left is 2/3 cup of shortening. That's it. Put it in there. Put it in there with your flour. Okay. Some people will tell you, you have to put salt in everything. No, you don't. If you're watching your salt intake, every little bit you cut out of your diet is a benefit. So that's what I do. Cut it out. Okay. One of these I'm going to need over here. And I think it's this one. Yeah. So, when you're making your pastry, this is where you can use the 2 butter knives and play like you're in middle school. Or you can take your pastry blender. And what I do is I start sifting it or scooping it over top of that chunk of shortening in here. And then I start smashing it. That's all you do. You just smash it. Now, since this is my first time doing it with this particular, flour, I'm not sure how it's going to react as far as being able to roll it and that sort of thing. I mean, wheat flour reacts a whole different way, but it's pretty neat to be eating something like I said, I made the banana cake and had the coconut flour. And I had a friend who, well, he was a friend at the time, isn't anymore. He had got a piece. I gave him a piece of it, and he was like, "Did you put coconut in this?" I go, "No, put coconut flour in it." He says, "I can taste it." I said, "Really cool. Now I have to do that again." So I've used the coconut flour a lot because it also, believe it or not, it does add. It adds some moisture to it. It's a moisture type of flour altogether. Now, this recipe for this pie crust, I forgot. It makes enough for 2 pie crusts. But that's okay, because that way if I mess one up, I'll have some more left over, won't I? My bad. And then this little guy you use to do like this. And that helps clean out between the dingies, little tines. Sometimes not so great, but this is where you get your hands messy. Now, the trick to pie crust, whether you're using gluten-free or regular flour, is you keep your rolling pin floured, powdered, and your work surface powdered with flour. Yeah, you do. Otherwise, what occurs is it sticks to everything. I mean everything. Sticks to the rolling pin, sticks to the tape. Now, if you do not have one of these, you're not going to believe this. You have wax paper at home? You do? Got water at home? Good. Take some water, put the water on your tabletop, slap that wax paper down on top of that, rub across it. It's like glues it for you. And your wax paper is now your silicone mat. We never had silicone mats growing up. I'm in the 70s for Pete's sake. And I'm having a hard time opening this. Okay, time to cheat. I need a, yeah, that thing. These do have a, reclosable top, which I love as well. So you don't have to measure this part, okay? This is just to cover your surface. Silicone stays cool, and that's why it's good. And things don't stick to it as much, or as readily, I should say. And I'm wearing a dark top. Boy, was I stupid today. It's kind of like spaghetti sauce. Seems like every time I made my kids spaghetti, I was wearing a white top. I ruined so many white tops that way. Now you're going to scoop. I'm just going to scoop the whole thing out, even though I know it's doubled. And it's very moist when you're using gluten-free. So you tend to have to use a little bit more of the flour for the end result. I'm going to put it right on there. My hands feel yicky. That's okay. Oh, I do need that spoon back. Oh, I need that. Now, we as kids, Mom would make, a pie. We would stand there and watch. And she got into the habit of doing this one little thing, and we absolutely would fight each other over it. Yeah. She would make a pie, and the part that you cut off around the edge, because you have to make it nice and neat and even, she made it into cookies. She made them into little sugar cookies. So they were pie crust cookies. We would fight over them. They were so good. They still are. I still make them. I'm going over this. So I'm going to coat it with this flour that's on the board. And when you roll out your dough for your pie pastry, you want it no more than about 1/8 of an inch. You can do 1/4 inch. That's personal preference, be like kind of a chunky kind of dough. So I didn't tell you what I was doing. You put it out on your table, on your mat, in a circle. Then you take the edge of your hand. Trust me, I know what I'm saying. You're going to go across it like this, and then you're going to do like checkerboard. You're going to come back towards yourself into the dough. You're going to make little indentations. Then you roll it. That circle becomes that square becomes that circle becomes a square, which becomes a circle. I know. But now, when I see it start to pick at this, that's when you add the flour. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't take away from the taste or anything like that. But you want to make sure that you do that. Now, considering the fact that I am using gluten-free flours, I think the 2 cups works great for a single pie crust. If you're going to do it with regular flour, you could do like 2/3 a cup of regular flour to 1/3 cup of the shortening. Ah! See? I knew it. There's no grab. I wasn't watching it. Okay. You can always do paste it together. It's called flour glue. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't watching. That's why it's so important, even though this is silicone, because I'm using gluten-free, I have to be even, more attentive to the properties of it. And because there's no gluten in there, it doesn't really like to stick well. And now, how do I know it's big enough? A little trick I showed you. You take the pie pan, put it over top, as long as it comes 1/2 inch away from the edge, because you're going to turn under the 1/2 inch. You're good. It will fit this pan perfectly. Now the tricky part. How do you get it from there into there? Ooh, that's the hard part. No, it's not. You flour this baby up real good. Now wooden ones work great too. I don't know what happened to a wooden rolling pin. Now because of the properties of this gluten-free flour, I'm going to use a spatula, or no, I'm going to use this thing. We have this huge, just this huge spatula, and just kind of get it up under there. All right, loosen it from the mat, and I can feel sticky spots. Where it's gotten warm. That's why if you have a marble top counter, I hate you because I want one. I want I want a piece of marble, just to do my pies on it. Then I wouldn't have this sticking at all. It would not stick. If you're into jewelry, costume jewelry, and you want to know real from fake, you want to know if it's a real stone. Someone tells you, "Oh yeah, that's amethyst," and you go, "Really? Is it real amethyst?" You know, that stuff's not cheap. Hold those beads up to your face, to your cheek. If they're cold, they're real. If they're warm, they're acrylic. I'm an old rock hound, sorry. So I'm trying to do this as genteelly as possible because I know it's gotten warm. And plus it's a different consistency. And he's not going to like it. It doesn't like me moving it around. So sometimes you have to do patchwork pie crust. It's okay. As long as it's in there. Doesn't matter. Now, this one wants to tear up right in the middle. Now, the trick with pie crust is, I told you this was the first time I've done it this way. It'll be good. It's just getting it in the pan. Some people will, now I could do that. I actually could do that. I'm not going to do it though. It'll end up on the floor. So I could take this whole thing, because then I end up with flour everywhere, and turn it, put this on top, flip it, you know, like you do with certain things. Or, what I was going to try to do was flour it up, and if it was behaving itself, I could literally take this dough. I'm holding my breath, and slowly it's going to fall apart. Roll it, supporting it. It's not going to do it. And then roll it about 2/3 of the way. Okay. Take the pie pan, stick it up under there, and then stick it in it. Guess what? It don't want me to do that. So we're going to play patchwork. That's the only problem. But in retrospect, in the future, I will get it to a certain size, like this, and just do my best, try to scoop it in, because like I said, the properties of this are completely different, and just kind of scooch the pan up under it, to a certain extent, and I get to put it back together. It got too warm. That was my mistake. So I'm going to stick the pieces in here. We're going to play puzzle. Pie pan puzzle. Now if I had one of those big, what do you call it, the big restaurant size, oh gosh, you know, like the, what called? The pizza oven paddles, that's what I was trying to think of. If I had one of those, oh, this would be simple. But I don't have one of those. So I'm having to do it, literally, I'm just forming it in the pan. So, but when it cooks, it'll all cook together. It'll all, you know, gel together. And this is kind of like when you do a graham cracker crust. You just do the graham crackers and the melted butter and all that, and then you stick it in, you just dump it in there, and then you mold it to the pan. That's basically what I'm doing. Molding it to my pan. Yay. After I've made a humongous mess. So, get my little hands dirty. Now you do not, with a apple crumb pie, you do not pre-cook your pastry or your pie crust. Now everybody's like, you make your own pie crust? Why? Because I don't like the ones in the store. I don't know how long they've been in that freezer. Number one, they're frozen. Number two, they taste weird. I mean, I know my mom will get in a pinch. She would buy them like that. I just couldn't do it. You get spoiled when you're a kid growing up in the countryside. And you're like, that's not pie. Now see, my hands are getting warm and 6 I'm warm. So I gotta powder my hands up, or else I'm never gonna get this in here. And go like that. So I have discovered that being on your feet a lot is not good for you. It causes certain issues, and it's called edema, and that is it's a deterioration of the. Hey, I'm giving a science class now. How about that? Of the blood flow, and when you get to older, like myself, those kind of things start happening, and so you start looking at ways to relieve that. So I am making bracelets, kind of like these, except they have magnets in them. The ones I'm making have magnets. The magnetic pull of the magnets is what helps the blood flow. So, and you know, I never was into the crystal thing. You know how they say certain crystals are healing crystals, and well, the super healer is quartz. I love quartz, but I never really got into that, even though I did grow up in that era of hippiness. And so this is going to have a little thicker of a crust than I normally would have, but it's okay. So I'm making these bracelets, and the first day that I made an anklet, because it was, you know, you saw I put my foot up in the beginning. They swelled so bad, my legs were like twice the size, and they hurt. So the skin was so tight it hurt. So I said, I gotta do something. And I looked up about, it has to do with your lymph nodes and your thyroid and all this good fun stuff. And they talked about magnet therapy. So I said, well, I used to make jewelry all the time, so I'll just make myself an anklet with some magnets. My leg hasn't swollen like that since I put that anklet on. Just to give you guys a little heads up. If you're, you know, sometimes us gals who love to cook, you know, we do a lot of standing. You can't really sit down and make this stuff, right? And so, you know, that's an idea. Shucks, if somebody actually leaves a comment and asks for one, I'll make you one. I'll make you an anklet, a bracelet, or whatever. I'm making my husband a necklace because he has thyroid problems. He has. Got all over me already. He takes medication for an underactive thyroid, I think is what he told me. And if the magnets help fix that by him wearing a necklace, hell yeah, why not? So I'm in the process of making him his own magnetic therapy necklace for his thyroid. And that's the fun part. Now, after I probably should take these off. You know, they're going to get really yucky. I just thought about that. After you've got your pie crust in the pan, hopefully better than I had to do, but that's because I said this was the first time. This is your first time seeing me doing me first time doing it. Even though I do everything else gluten-free, I've not done one of my favorite pies, which is this way. So once you do that, normally you would have an overhang of about 1/2 inch of your dough or pie crust. And I'm trying to get it to where it's like gonna actually make room for all those apples. I'm trying to get as close to the pan sides as possible. And it could be that gluten-free flour with shortening like that is maybe not as forgiving. So I'll know when I go to make, when it comes out, I'll know which way to go with it. It'll either be, for my regular recipe, add less shortening or add more flour, whatever the case may be. So normally what you would do with a 1/2 inch overhang, you take a nice sharp knife, not serrated, just a straight sharp knife, and you go around and you're going to cut it to where just that 1/2 inch hangs over. Then you take the 1/2 inch and you turn it under. So we're going to imagine that I've turned it under. And then you flute the edge. I know, they have gizmos I think now that do it, but it's more fun when you do it with your own fingers, because then you did it. You know, it's your handiwork. So you put your thumb and your forefinger, these guys, I'm going to sit it on top, You take this index finger from the other hand and you put it into the V that this forms. So you're going to go like this, okay? You do it all the way around. And that forms the fluting. And I can smell the coconut in this pot, in this crust. So funny. So you go around like that. Whoopsie, back there. Now this is going to make kind of a fat edge because, like I said, I couldn't roll it out thinner. That's okay. It's not. There's no gluten in it, so I don't feel guilty. I can't make any cookies though. Oh well. I can just make up a batch of the batter or the dough and just make cookies from that. But they end up being like a cinnamon cookie because I always would sprinkle cinnamon and sugar on. My mom would. Every other one she'd either make them just sugar or she'd make them cinnamon and sugar. And the ones that you see in the store, they have this lovely fluting all the way around the edge. It's done by a machine, not by human hands. What's fun in that? So I'm going to do like this. Like that, and like that. Now, I tried to live stream this, and they're doing some stuff, and I'm not happy. They told me I had to wait 24 hours. I said, my pie's not going to wait 24 hours. Okay. So, that's what makes everyone's baking unique. Those are your fingers that did that. I guess my fingers did this. And you go around it, and you can fuss with it if you want. Make it like your own little piece of art. Or not. And that's the pie crust. Does not get cooked by itself. There are some lemon meringue pie. If you ever make one of those, yes, you do have to pre-bake the pie crust because what's going into it's really liquidy. And you don't want it to be soggy. So that's why you do that. Are you kidding there? You're being mean to me today. Why are you being mean? Nothing worse than mean pastry dough. Oh, it's good. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. With the apples mixed in with it, that's been really good. Okay, that's that part. The apple part. This is going to be fun. Because I didn't get out my humongous bowl. I have a big pink bowl. It's like this big. It's perfect for this. But I didn't get it out. So, to the apples, I need to add 3/4 cup of the sugar. Cane sugar. The only one I use. It processes in your body easier. And that's what we want. Things that will break down physically. Whoop, whoop. Okay. You're not supposed to put too much in there. I know you're getting anxious, but doggone. 3/4 cup sugar. And well, if they're really sour, you can always make it 1 cup. That's up to you. And I did the lemon juice on it earlier. And then you do 2 tablespoons of flour. You're probably wondering, why 2 tablespoons of flour? Because the flour helps thicken. You ever eaten the... I'm doing this with my hands. I measure with my hands. There's 1. Is because if you ever noticed, apple pie is kind of like gooey. Well, that's the flour. That's the flour with the juice from the apples. So then you're gonna give me that big spoon again. And this is when you kind of mix this stuff up because they're coated with lemon juice. You can sit in this lemon juice for several hours. There's a seed that I don't need. I go like this. You got to get them nice and coated. So I'm trying to watch, make sure they don't go all over the table. And normally I clean as I go, but now you get to see how messy it gets in my kitchen. So like that. And they're good and coated, just like that. You also need, that's what I thought. I forgot it. Now, I've never put raisins in my apple pie before. I need nutmeg. And the nutmeg is somewhere. I thought I probably took it out, but did I bring it out? Do you see nutmeg on my table? Oh, like you, yeah, I can ask me, right? I don't see it. I don't see it. No, I know I have some. I've got my cabinets finally organized such that the pies and cake stuff is on one side, those spices, and the others is on the other. I've got pickling spices in here. There's pumpkin pie spice. That's what I was talking about. I need nutmeg though. There it is. I have a spice grinder that I use for my coffee beans, and I would love to get fresh nutmeg and grind it. Ooh. So it's 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon goes in the apples, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Well, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg is like pretty much a dash. You can put more in or less in. It's up to your personal taste. Me, I like cinnamon. And cinnamon is great for your blood pressure. If you have blood pressure issues, if you put cinnamon in your coffee, you put cinnamon in just about anything you could think of, you'll be good to go. Now this is half. I put in about a teaspoon. Just because I like it cinnamony. And you can put nuts in this. You can put raisins in it. Now, I have had apple pie with raisins in it before. And raisins have iron in them, which is good for you. And I'm wondering, should I put the raisins in this one? Because I never have, and it's the first time I'm making it for my husband. What do you think? Raisin, yes or no? Well, how many? Yeah, 1/2 cup for this big pie? I don't think it would hurt, do you? Okay, I think I'm going to throw them in there anyway. Just for the heck of it. I like raisins. I like fig Newtons too. So now that little bit of cinnamon has got that apple pie color. That little golden-ishy color. Or tan. Now let's just see. Oh, it smells so good. See, there it is. Yep. Raisins, yes or no? Well, we decided yes, right? Okay. Okay, we're going to do raisins. They are right there. And the reason why I'm doing the raisins, mainly because they're fresh. My husband just picked them up at the store the other day. And they haven't even been opened yet. Oh. And I told him I was making an apple pie, so I have to have it made. So when he comes home, he's going to be like, what smells so good? He's like, oh, you made that pie, didn't you? I'm like, uh-huh. I made coffee cake, too. Gluten-free coffee cake. I didn't have any coffee with it, but I need that knife again. One day, I want to keep one of these close by when I need one. 1/2 cup. One more raisins. They stick together in there. Okay. That's it. See, that's not much. Just enough to put them in there, yes. Break them up. They do tend to stick together. Otherwise, you'll have you get a slice of pie and it'll be like a clump of raisin. Like, what was that? That would be him. What was that I just put into? Oh, I don't know, was it? Tasted like a bunch of grapes. Yeah, raisins. All right. We got that all mixed up in there. And I'm going to dump the apple mixture. You're going to love this. I got to move some stuff. You see how big this is. This is a 9-inch pie pan. This is 8 huge Granny Smith apples. I think it's 8. Yeah, it was. I know it was at least 6. So you go like this. Don't get nervous. I do every time I do this. It's like, oh no, it's too much. Oh God, it smells so good. And you're going to seal the apples. You got to squish them a little bit with the topping. Oh shit! I know. You're looking at me like, oh. Well, you've never seen in the restaurants, little truck stop places where they have homemade pie, and they'll have apple pie, and it's like up to here. That's what this is. The country folks that cook that stuff. Now the raisins are hidden inside there, but that's okay. We won't. I'm not telling if you don't tell. Okay. Just like mushrooms, apples cook down. Trust me, they do. Now, the topping. I'm not even going to bother washing and drying out this bowl. We grew up in the country. I can do what I want. I'm going to put that right to the side. Okay. I've got my oven heated to 350 degrees. And it goes in there for like 40 minutes. I keep an eye on it. I don't want it to burn. Because I don't want the topping to burn. Here's the topping. Ready? Topping is a stick of butter, soft butter. I'm using a whole stick. Normally use a half because lots of topping is better. You think bacon is better? Butter topping is better than bacon on a pie, unless you're eating a bacon pie. That in there. Then a cup of sugar. Now normally it would be 3/4 of a cup, but I'm using a cup. And this is the cup. If it's a little bit more than a cup, it's not a big deal. Like that. 1 cup of sugar goes in with the butter. The butter is softened, pre-softened. Has to be softened. Okay? And then 2 cups of flour. Really? Wow. I gotta get the flour in. It's right here. Okay, 2 cups of flour. Now the thing is, if I make too much crumb topping, that's okay too. Because I can put it in the fridge and put it on top of something else, like make tarts, throw it on there. Makes it real good. So don't worry about making too much. My problem is I don't know how to cut down because coming from a family of 5 kids, 5 siblings, you usually a lot of food being prepared. That's where this little guy comes back in, the pastry blender dude. Now, I'm not going to worry about taking the pastry stuff out of it. I should, but I'm making crumb topping. So you just go like this, and just like when you're doing the pie crust, you kind of scoop it over the butter, and you're doing like this, and like that. And in this, I don't know, I need brown sugar. I put regular sugar in here, didn't I? I sure did. Well, that's okay. Should use brown sugar. I used regular sugar because I like the regular sugar. The cane sugar. Yeah, the brown sugar does make it a little darker, but I'm using gluten-free flour, so the color will be there. It's not that big of a deal. See, I was going by my old recipe. Silly me. So, to get this straight, it's actually a half a cup of flour, and I used a whole cup or 2, and the half a stick of butter, and half a cup of brown sugar. That's your real recipe. And if you're confused now, just give me a comment, and I'll give you the right recipe. I get excited about making apple pie. Sorry. So this is not as lumpy as some would be. I don't have to really clean it. It's really kind of, some of it's really kind of powdery, which is fine. Now this is the tricky stuff. You gotta sprinkle it on top, but also kind of pack it to it so that it sticks to it. And it's going to, the apples are sticky anyway with the lemon juice and all that. Now the juices of the apples are coming through. So I start in the top and just let it cascade down. Get it not so close to me. So I will end up, and the butter helps for it to stick. So it's kind of like playing with clay, sorta. Kind of mold it to it. You kind of pat it down. And as it bakes, the juices will start oozing out the top. It looks so wonderful. Like that. So, you know, because it's so high, that's why you have to kind of smush it to it. The butter acts like a glue. And you seal the edge. Where the crust is, you don't want to see that fluting, because you need to seal it in. And the reason why I say you seal it in, it forces the apples to really cook and really get juicy. So that's what we're doing. We're making the apples work. Apples gotta do their job. Right, like that. And I made a mess of myself. Yeah, it doesn't look like that I'm doing this correctly. See, I knew that as high as this was going to end up, because I used the big apples and not the medium-sized ones, that I was going to need the extra. And, you know, I can scoop up stuff on the sides here. because it's all in there anyway. Just to finish patching it up. I got one little hole over here. You want to make sure it's sealed shut. Now if you ever have one of those pies that has the two crusts when you're putting the top crust on, same premise. You need to make sure it's pinched shut. This you can't pinch because it's flaky. And put it in there just like that. Now, it takes about 30 minutes for this to cook. And on my next video, I'll show you the result. In my upcoming videos, just to kind of give you a little teaser, I have a bowl full of peppers. And I mean full of peppers. I've got banana peppers, jalapeno peppers, and I've even got a couple of bell peppers. And I have a recipe for sweet peppers. Sweet and hot peppers. I saw a recipe somewhere where it was similar, and they called them cowboy chips. I don't know why they call them cowboy chips, but this, I've got more of those. I've got about at least a dozen banana peppers in here, and a bunch of these jalapenos and a bunch of these banana peppers. And then I've got a couple of bell peppers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slice them up. Go grab the ones out of the garden. And then the next video you see, we will be making sweet and hot. Well, actually, we're going to make hot pepper jelly. How about that? And you're probably thinking, what do you put that on? You put on cream cheese, silly. You put on whatever you want to put it on. It doesn't have to be anything specific. So I'm going to pop this little lovely thing in the oven real quick. Same second rack up in the bottom, as always. Now, the thing about apple pie, it does ooze out from inside. And if you don't want to have to clean your oven because you're cooking a pie, put a cookie sheet underneath it. That's why you put it on the second rack up. I just recently, I'm a mess, recently did the self-cleaning on my self-cleaning oven. I was shocked how great a job it did. Never had a self-cleaning oven before. Always had to scrub with my elbows. So, here we have our little apple snacks, apple chips. Now, what I can do with these, actually, is flip them over, let them dry a little bit that way, because they're still kind of soft and smushy because I put them skin side up. Next time I'll probably do it the other way. But there are some that actually have crisped up. I can put these in the oven at a low temperature, like if I was using a dehydrator, and it will make the skins get crispy, like an actual chip. Some of them automatically did it when I put these in there, but then there's some, I think, because I had more meat of the apple on them, they're a little bit slow. They're a little slower than the others. So, but you can see they get that nice golden edge, like that. If you leave them in any longer than that, you're gonna burn them. That little crispy edge is just perfect. And some like this, you know, it's fine. It's crunchy. So when I'm waiting on my canning jars for my peppers, but I will not cut into the pie. If I have to do a different video and then just show you the pie, I'm going to show you the pie. So you can see how beautiful it turns out. But I'm going to be doing the hot pepper jelly. I made jam one year, or actually it was preserves, that I mixed blueberries with blackberries, and it was wonderful. I still can't find my canning pan lid. I don't know where it is. It should still be down where I was having it stored in our basement. I don't know where it is. But this is my messy kitchen that you got to experience. But hey, when you make a pie, especially an apple crumb pie, especially country style apple crumb pie, you get messy, you get dirty, then you get to clean it up, then you get to eat it. But, you know, I enjoy sharing my recipes with you. And I enjoy sharing the gluten-free side that I finally discovered was what I needed for my good health, being able to lose weight and feel healthier. And that makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? It does me. So I would love to know if you ever try any of my recipes. If you can't remember the ingredients or something, or you think, I thought you said, and I go, oh, oops. Kind of like I did with the portions on the ingredients for the pie crust. That was my mistake. I'm so used to making 2 pies. But, you know, leave me a comment. You know, that's what that's for. If there's something you really want to try and want to eat that you haven't yet, I'm a guinea pig. I'd be more than happy to make it for you. The problem is, you'd have to come to my house to eat it. Or you'd have to make it yourself. But if you want to watch me make something that you would want to see if it's hard to make, or, you know, if there's variations of it that you can do, hey, drop me a comment. Like my page. Share it. Definitely share it. Share it with friends, family, people you don't like. I don't care. Just share it, because everybody eats, right? And subscribe to my channel. I mean, I love doing this, and I would love to keep doing it. And sometimes I wonder if y'all are out there or not. But I know there's some people out there, and I love you guys, the ones that are letting me know that you are out there. I'm sorry for the lapse in time between videos. I have a son who's getting married, and you're probably tired of hearing me say that, but it's a whirlwind in this home, in this barefoot country cook home, and but I have a lot of fun. Hope you've enjoyed. Hey, be healthy, eat good, eat gluten-free, and come to my kitchen and cook barefoot with me. I love you guys.